Hey parents, welcome along to the Quarantine Lounge for Parents, where Leanne and I are actually going to walk you through some information today. Hey Leanne, how you doing?
Hey Linda, nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. How's Sydney this morning?
It's good. It's had a little bit rain overnight, but it looks pretty clear. A few people walking around. I've actually seen a lot more people walking on the streets, and my hubby went for a cup of coffee. He usually gets takeaway in the morning, and we can only get takeaway now. And he said he couldn't believe the number of people running on the road because all the gyms are closed now.
Yeah.
So he said it almost feels like a different world. There are lots of people out there, but all keeping their distance, which is good.
Yes, yeah, I noticed that this morning too, people keeping their distance out and about. So what we're going to talk about, parents, today is around the conversation about COVID-19. You know, how much do we talk to our teens or not talk to our teens about what's happening in the current environment? So Leanne and I want to cover off on that today. Do we have the conversation with them? And if so, how do we go about that? So, Leanne, I thought it'd be really awesome if you could perhaps start out talking about, do we actually have the conversation?
All right, so it's really quite interesting because I think, you know, sometimes as parents, our natural inclination with our kids is to go, we don't want to worry them. And I think particularly if we've got children or teenagers who are naturally worriers or a little bit anxious, you know, the last thing we want to do is make their anxiousness worse. So I was reading an awesome article by a Professor Jeannine Hudson this morning, and she's head of the, I'm just going to refer to my notes if I can, Melinda. She's the director of the Centre of Emotional Health Department at Macquarie University here in Sydney. And she said when it comes to COVID-19, we absolutely do need to talk to our teens. You know, trying to protect them and isolate them from the news and what's going on in the world is not a good thing. It's all about, and what she recommends is sticking to the facts. So not embellishing it or putting, your worries on top of what you're seeing or your interpretation. It's really sticking to the facts. And she said, you know, it's almost like getting them to be a detective, you know, in their own world when it comes to COVID-19.
Yeah, oh, I love that. So, like, talk to us a bit more about what does it look like to be a detective? So if our teens are going to be, you know, like Sherlock Holmes, what does that mean?
Yeah, so she gives some good examples. So if they're talking about or listening or have questions around COVID-19, that detective kind of mode is to get them to explore it with you. So things like, you know, how likely, if they're worried about, you know, is everyone going to die? And, you know, it looks so bad in Italy, Mom, what does that mean for Australia? Is it just a matter of time? So asking them questions like, well, let's look at the facts of how likely it is that we are going to get infected. And of course, bearing in mind that there are some unpredictable things happening out there and we're learning more and more about the virus every day, but get them to start inquiring, you know, how likely is it that, you know, we will get infected? You know, what would happen? You know, if we did get infected, what would happen? And help them through the scenarios of what that looks like, whilst at the same time as a parent staying informed. So making sure you're sticking to the facts. I mean, the government's doing an amazing job in providing information to us, not only on TV, but in the newspaper. So, you know, even if you don't, and you know, I don't think as parents we need to know all the answers. So even if we go and say, look, I don't know the answer to that question, let's go and fact find and put that detective mode. If we stick to the facts and they can answer the questions with the facts that they can see, it kind of will create a little bit more calmness and a reassurance for them going through the process.
Yeah, that's actually a really nice approach. And I've got to say that I've heard people saying all kinds of things, and I think we might have mentioned this yesterday on social media, you know, like there are people that are saying we should do one thing and then somebody else is saying we should do something different, and there are facts and not facts, opinions going all around the place. And I think that's really tough. So I like the whole concept of really sticking to the facts. The other day I heard a parent say to their teen, you know, don't worry about it, it's going to be okay. So really kind of reassuring them. And in my mind, I kind of thought, well, is it going to be okay? Like, what would you say to that about whether we reassure, or what do we say?
And I think that's a really important question as well, to talk about. And it's interesting because Professor Hudson says we've got to be cautious not to over reassure our teens. You know, don't go overboard. It's going to be okay. We're all going to be fine. There's nothing to worry about, because at the end of the day, this is a very unpredictable time. It's very uncertain, and all of our stress responses are kind of going to be switched on, because our primitive brain is always searching for, you know, what's going wrong, are we safe, aren't we safe? So there's a feeling out there that things are not quite right. And so the stress levels, both in us as parents as well as in our teens, are going to be raised. And they're going to look to parents for reassurance, and they're going to look to parents for trustworthy information. And so if we're saying to them, oh, don't worry, it's going to be okay, and fobbing off their concern, then what's going to happen with them is they're going to start to, you know, when they watch the news and they hear differently, it's going to erode the trust that they have for us and our ability. You know, I think there's a lot of tough times to come still. So our ability to calm them in those times may be lessened because we're kind of eroding their trust.
Yeah.
The other thing that Hudson says on this point is, you know, our teens need to, and even any school age children really, they need to know that life, there are uncertain times. They need to start developing the skills for uncertainty. You know, how do they manage during times of uncertainty? Asking questions, looking for facts, going into that detective mode. Now, if we're trying to shelter them from everything that's happening by going, no, it's fine, don't worry about it, they don't actually learn some really important life skills.
Yeah, and it's so true. And like I see teens and sometimes my daughter's friends, you know, like they don't know how to manage some of that stuff. And, you know, I mean, they're growing and they're developing, but for us, like, we need to role model more and more. And I suppose as my girls are getting older, I'm realizing even more, you know, like the things that we're role modeling are changing. But we still have to be good role models for them.
Yeah, and I just want to, I mean, it's something that we do in our workshops, Linda, and I'm wondering if it would be useful for parents. You know, our blue monkey exercise that we do?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Do you run that?
So just something, you know, that as parents you can have a think about this is, you know, that continual don't worry, it's going to be fine. We're going to do a quick exercise with you. It's called the blue monkey exercise, and I think it's really useful in understanding that when our teens worry, going it's going to be okay and don't worry about it often doesn't make their worry go away. So what we're going to do is we're going to allow you for a minute. We want you to, where you're sitting and listening to this, either close your eyes or just be present and look at us on the screen. And we, ideally, if you can close your eyes, that'll be perfect. So if you close your eyes, and we want you to think for the next 60 seconds of a blue monkey. All right, so Linda, you got to close your eyes as well now.
Oh,
You're
okay,
part of
right,
this.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's close our eyes for 60 seconds, and all we must think about is a blue monkey. So visualize it, hear it. Here we go. Can you see that blue monkey, Linda?
Yeah, I can actually. It's got a very curly tail, this one.
Yeah. All right, so see it in the tree and jumping around. Is it a dark blue? Is it a light blue? All right, I might stop us up there at 30 seconds because I still think we're going to be able to get the effect.
Yeah.
Right, so have a look, open your eyes and have a look at me and Linda on the screen. Now what I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes for another 30 seconds, and I want you to think of everything but the blue monkey. Yeah? All right, here we go.
Let's give it a go. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So everything but the blue monkey. Right, how are we going? Another 5 seconds. No blue monkey. 3, 2, 1. Right. How did that go for you?
Well, I don't know about all the other parents, but all I could see, and actually all I could think about, was a blue monkey.
Exactly, and I think that's the whole point of the exercise. I'm not sure how you parents are there, whether you managed in the first 30 seconds to separate the blue monkey in the second. But what that shows is that the blue monkey is like the worry in your teens. So by going, they've got worry in their mind. So if by you going, stop thinking about it, stop worrying, you know, it's going to be fine. It's kind of like the blue monkey. It's there. That's not going to help them move on. It's about really being able to sit down with them, being present, and being able to have a conversation. And, you know, that's where, Linda, you're going to share with us an awesome model that you and I have worked on for quite a while in what we need to remember when we're having a conversation with our teens.
Yes, yeah, thanks for sharing that exercise. And I hope parents, you had the same experience. Like, it's quite bizarre, isn't it? And before I talk about this other, you know, about when to have the conversation, or how to have the conversation, I should say, is kind of reminded me of when I was a teenager, and say I would do stuff at home, or I'd be carrying something up the hallway and Mum would say, don't hit the wall. Don't hit the wall with that. And guaranteed I would almost hit the wall, like every time, hit the wall. It's like, it puts us in our minds. Like, yeah, that's so cool. So, yeah, in terms of, having the conversation, when is a good time? Well, any time is a good time. And I've had a number of parents asking me this over the last little while. Any time's a great time to have the conversation. And one of the things that is really important is to make sure that you're feeling calm. Because when our emotions are high, it's not a great time to have the conversation, because we tend to be a little more reactive or emotive in how we put things across, and perhaps less able to look at the facts if we've got those emotions coming up. So really be nice and calm. And also
and can I just make a point on that, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Something that parents must remember also is that our teens tend to mirror what we're doing. So if they pick up that we are worried, and I mean, I'm not saying that we can't be worried in the current situation, because I think everyone's got a different degree of worry and there's fear around. But if we are fearful and they can see us really worried, we will trigger the same fear in them. So I think, Linda, what you say is so super important, is to be really calm, as we can when we're having that conversation and connecting with them.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, I mean, our teens can pick up worry and stress a mile away. So be really calm, and also have some time to have the conversation. Like, if you're feeling calm, but you've only got like 3 minutes because you're about to make a phone call or someone's arriving, that's probably not the best time to start a conversation, because it means that you can't really explore it with teens. So those two things, the calm and the time, are probably a couple of the most important things there. And I've certainly had the conversation with my teens, and Peter and I decided that we would have the conversation. We made sure that we talked about it a little bit beforehand, so we were both in a calm space, and we had time. We agreed on when that was going to occur. So just for parents, Leanne, I wanted to share our iTalk process. So Leanne and I have developed 5 steps to emotion coaching, and being able to emotion coach teens is so very important. And so this is the 5 steps. It's called iTalk, and it's the fundamentals of emotion coaching, and it was based on work that was done by John Gottman, who's quite a famous psychologist. He's worked in relationships and counselling for decades, I think about 40 odd years or thereabouts.
Yeah.
So he's the guru.
He's fab.
Yeah, and so I thought I might just run through that, but I'm going to pop it on the screen. So let me just do a quick screen share. Hopefully, can you see that, Leanne?
Yeah, perfectly.
Right. Yeah, good, because that means everybody else can. So, so the first step is I, and it's about I see you. And what that means is that we're looking for any emotion in our teens. So it could be that maybe they're looking like they're down, or maybe they're looking a bit sad, or perhaps looking a bit confused or worried. And we then notice that. And then when we notice it, we can actually turn towards them, which is the second step, where we use that opportunity to tap into our teens' emotion and connect with them. And turning towards, so if you think of it this way, like if I'm actually literally turning and facing you, that's turning towards, rather than turning and facing the other way. Or maybe I'm on my laptop and I'm talking to them while I'm looking at my laptop, rather than actually closing my laptop and turning and actually facing my teen.
Yeah, and Linda, how many times do we see parents with children or teens on their phone, and they're looking at their phone and they're going, yeah, I can hear you, I can hear you. So yeah. I think that's such an important point, is turning towards, because if we put our phones down, close our laptops, and we literally sit in front of our teen, or maybe in some case next to them, because they might not want to see the eye contact and they feel more comfortable, they know if we're turning towards that we are there for them and we're there to listen. And I think it sends a hugely important message.
Yeah, it does. It does send a massive message. And in fact, if I can say at that point, like I make a real point to turn and face my teens, particularly when they come into the office and, you know, wherever we are in the house. And what happens now is they notice when I don't. So there have been times that I've been texting or reading something on my phone, and they're like, for heaven's sake, will you put your phone down while you're talking to me? It's kind of like a bit of a role reversal. So they really notice. So turning towards, it's very important to do that. The third step there is accept emotions. Now, all emotions are normal. There's no such thing as a good emotion or a bad emotion. We all experience emotions: sadness, confusion, happiness, joy. And it's about really acknowledging and validating our teens. So acknowledging could simply be, I can see that you seem worried. Or, you know, I get a sense that you're worried, or I get a sense that you're sad about this, and that's okay. So if they say, yeah, I am feeling a bit worried, that's okay, you know, to feel worried, and a lot of people are feeling worried. So it's that acknowledgement and validation that can go such a long, long way, rather than, like you were saying before, you know, don't worry about it, it's going to be fine, or get over it, move on, toughen up. Don't be so dramatic. So it's really accepting their emotions.
And can I just chip in there as well, Linda?
Yeah, please do.
It's also normalizing how they're feeling, their emotions, you know. And I think for parents to be saying, you know, I can see or I can feel that you are worried, and I can see that you're not quite yourself at the moment, you know, I feel the same. You know, it's also normalizing it for them, that you as a parent who they trust and have a good connection with, that you're also feeling a little bit of the worry, but you calm and you've kind of got it in terms of managing the conversation. So even, you know, acknowledging their worry, but saying, you know, we also worried, you know, there are a lot of people are worried. I absolutely get it and understand why you would be worried.
Yes.
So that's also okay, isn't it?
Totally. And we can model calm even though we're saying we feel worried, and we understand, we get it. It's okay, because we want to be open and honest with our teens. We want to develop that trusting relationship. So again, another really important point. The next point there is listen to your teens. So actually listen to them, look at them, and listen to what they're saying. Try and resist the temptation to jump in and cut them off, which is, I laugh when I say that, because you and I often do that to each other. Leanne was like, right, we're in there. But, you know, listen to your teen, listen to what they have to say, nod your head, let them know that you're actually hearing them, and without judgment, because they're more likely to open up if they are not feeling judged and they know that they're being heard. And that's just so massive in building that level of trust with our teens. And then,
just to add in there, that whole listening piece, the active listening, and we talk a lot about it in our workshops, Linda, is, you know, as parents, we we so want to not see our teens struggle. We want to make it better for them. We want to band-aid it. We want to come up with, don't worry about it, you'll be okay. And so actually being able to sit and listen and let them talk until they're absolutely burnt out. And what I mean by that is they've just got nothing more to say. It took me quite a long time to practice shut up, don't say anything, let them talk. Because by us trying to make it better for them or cutting in, the message is, you're not hearing me totally. So I think that is such an important point you talk about, is actively listening without interrupting.
And it's a great skill to have, and it is really hard when you first start. And I remember when I first started trying to zip my lip, because that's what I learned when I was growing up as well, that everyone always cut in, so they didn't really listen. But listening is such an important skill, and when you can do that with your teens, and you can do it in many other places, it makes such a whole lot of difference to any relationship. But in particular for teens, I think that's it's really critical for them to know that they've been heard truly. And then that final one there is kick around solutions. So, you can help your teen problem solve by even saying to them, well, what are some of the things that we could do? What are some options that we can throw on the table? So if we are feeling worried, what do you think we could do? And I actually had this conversation, in fact, Peter and I had this conversation on Sunday night with our two girls. And we went through this process. We actually asked them, what is it that's on your mind? Tell us, what you're worried about. What are you hearing at school? What are people talking about? And even though we've modelled calm, a lot of others that they've heard on social media have been like, catastrophizing or giving opposing views, and so they were really confused. So when we had the conversation, I was saying to them, well, what do you think we could do that is within our control? Because we can't control what's happening in our environment. And so they were saying things like, well, we can make sure we wash our hands all the time, or whenever we've touched something, or if we've been outside. Great, that's an awesome option. We can make sure we stay a good distance from people. We can do more stuff online if we need to get in touch. So they were actually coming up with a whole range of ideas rather than us saying, this is what you need to do. And what that meant was that really, I could see that it was quite empowering for them, because they were coming up with the ideas and we were saying, yeah, that's a fantastic idea. Let's implement that. And when do we want to start those things? So for our teens to be able to be empowered to come up with their own solutions was fantastic. And I can highly recommend that step, which is, of course, why we put it in our 5 steps of emotion coaching, because it does absolutely work. So,
do you mind if I just add something there around the problem solving? Is to remember that if we're jumping in and solving for our teens, where are they ever going to learn the tools and the skills for a skill that they're going to need throughout their life? And so if we can help them problem solve, and even more importantly, during these uncertain times. So you've got the uncertainty of COVID-19, you then allow them to problem solve in this environment. We are absolutely setting them up for success in terms of a toolkit of ways to solve. But we're there to guide them and to create, that sounds like a good idea, what else could you do? I mean, we kind of in some cases know the answers, but giving them the answers versus them figuring it out is so much more powerful.
Oh yes, it really is incredibly powerful, and they're more inclined to do those things because they've come up with the solutions themselves, rather than us as parents feel like we have to be on their case because we're telling them what to do and then they might forget. And so we end up on their case and we get crabby with them, and then suddenly tensions are high. So I think certainly going through that process, when we do that with our teens, and coming back to role modelling, it sets our teens up for the future, because they're going to then learn how to do that to their siblings and with their friends. And in fact, I've actually seen and found my girls doing this you know, going through this process together, and even to us, to Peter and I, if they feel like we're looking, I don't know, stressed or something like that, they'll come in and they'll start having the same conversation, which is really exciting to be able to do that. So I think by doing that, by going through those 5 steps, that in itself can bring a lot of calm into the environment. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about having the conversation. It's about doing it in a calm way. And it's about spending the time to actually go through those steps.
Perfect.
So, yeah, right. So I think that's for me the main thing, the main key ingredient there to having the conversation.
So, Linda, can I have your gorgeous face back on the screen, please?
Oh, yeah, sorry, of course.
All right, so perfect, thank you. So just to wrap up what we were saying today, from a point of view is, should we talk to our teens about COVID-19? The answer is absolutely yes. The key thing is sticking to the facts and exploring with them what is worrying them, and then looking for the facts that can answer their questions. Don't over reassure them, because at the end of the day, it's not helpful. It's not truthful. If you're going, everything's going to be okay, there's not a problem, they're going to continue to be worried. So again, talk about what's happening, let them listen to the news, and be there as their support person, but stick to the facts, and that in itself will help reassure them. And in terms of having a conversation, Linda, what would you say your top tips are there?
Yeah, well, certainly for me, it's around staying calm and having a calm conversation. It's having the time, because I think you said it beautifully, and, you know, we need to have the conversation. So the calm, the time, and going through that I talk process. If I was to pick out one of those things, it would be acknowledging and validating and normalising. So yeah, they would be.
Well, that's actually 3 things.
That is 3. So I've given you about 5 in total. My maths is not so great. Acknowledge, validate, normalise. There you go, top 3.
Okay, beautiful. And just to remind everyone, on our website, www.iparenteens.com, on the homepage, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there is an ebook that we've put together on our talk. So if you want to know a little bit more about it, get some more detail around that, feel free. It's for free, and it's ready for you to use and really help you with the conversations with your teen. Any last comments as we close up, Linda?
Yeah, well, just one more actually, and that is that Leanne and I will be online live on Friday to answer your questions. So please jump on. We'll put the details on our Facebook page, so you'll know exactly what to do and how to do it. So jump on if you've got any questions. There's no such thing as a silly question. We love them all. No one has all the answers, so seriously, jump on. We would love to have a bit more of a conversation with you then.
All right, sounds awesome. Bye, Tassie. Bye, Linda.
Yes,
bye, everyone.
Bye, Sydney.
Thanks so much.
See
bye
you.
For now.
Bye.